So you're trying to create a logo design for yourself. Let me give you a few tips. Number one, you have to know the brand. Know your brand. Know what you want this logo to represent. What other logos would you see this beside? So for example, if you have a dog grooming business and you see how other dog grooming businesses are branding themselves, you want your logo to be able to stand beside those, and not just beside those, but be able to stand out from those. So you want to make sure that you're pulling from inspiration that is actually going to inspire you to do something unique, but something that can communicate what you want it to communicate. And then in your research, you will find out possibly what type of logo that you want to go for. Like, do you want a word mark? Do you want a combination mark? Do you want something that's more iconic? Like, are you creating a clothing brand that you want to rival another clothing brand? Are you trying to start a shoe company that you want to rival Nike? Like, you have to do some research to make sure you know the who, the what, and most importantly, the why. Why does this exist? And what about this mark is going to properly represent your brand? So after all the research and the inspiration you're going to pull from, maybe even making a mood board, then you want to sketch. Always sketch first. Before you touch a computer program or ask someone else to touch a computer program, the first step is always going to be sketching it out in the logo design process. You want to get all the ideas out on paper, all the possible ways you can do this. For monograms, when you're dealing with letters, you're gonna be like, okay, how many different ways can these letters work together? If you are having a brand and you want it to be a mascot type brand, how many different ways can this mascot be represented? So you always want to sketch before you go in and get all those ideas out, because what you might find, and I've had this experience, is that this idea from this concept actually works best if I combine it with this concept from this part over here and putting it together. So it's all about sketching. Now, once you get your sketch the way you want it, then you want to be dealing with a vector-based program. I use Adobe Illustrator. There are other less ostentatious programs that you can use, but what you want to make sure of, you want to make sure you're using vector. So in the world of Adobe, I'm always making my logos in Adobe Illustrator, not Adobe Photoshop, because Photoshop deals with raster images. Illustrator deals with vector images. Now, vector is what you want because vector, you're dealing with paths, you're dealing with things that you can maneuver to where the quality remains the same, but you can manipulate it to different sizes and you retain the quality. So if you make a logo, but you make it in Photoshop at like 500 pixels by 500 pixels, if you want it any bigger than that, you're not going to be able to do anything with it because it's going to become pixelated once you stretch it out. But in Illustrator, you can make that same dimension, and in the program, you'll be able to make it larger and then put it into another file because it's vector. And once it's vector, you can manipulate it in many different and crucial ways. Now, you know the who, what, where, when, why. You're building this brand's logo. You have, got the concepts down. You've got the pencil and paper, and you've got the concepts. You got a handful that you want to work with. You're in Illustrator or some vector-based program where you're playing around with it, and you got it the way you want it. Make sure that you're only dealing in black and white. Not including color initially helps you to strictly focus on the form. Like, if this were a stamp, can you put this stamp anywhere? You're going to need a one color version of your logo at some point anyway. You want to make sure that the form is right. You want to make sure that devoid of color, you can still get the idea. You don't want to create a logo that is useless if it's not in a very particular color. And the final thing in this video that I want to tell you is to refine and test. You're gonna go through various iterations. You're gonna show the stakeholders, and even if the stakeholder is yourself, make sure that you're testing your logo. You're making sure that if you're building a website for it, it can work in different sizes. If you want it to be a small little icon beside your web address, will people be able to still tell that's your logo? Do you need to possibly create a dynamic logo or a logo of a different form that can work in different sizes? Because sometimes you're going to want something that's like a bowl game logo or a classic logo. But in other cases, you might want something that's just strictly iconic. Like you want something that's like the Nike logo or the Jordan brand. You want something like that. So making sure that you're testing and you're testing it on applications. So a lot of times when I'm doing a whole brand, I might put the logo on various applications. Like if you're doing a car wrap, or if you're doing a flag, or if you're doing shirts or hats, making sure that on all these places, your logo looks the way you want it to look. So to review, know your brand. Know the brand that you're designing for. Always sketch first. You can even just give yourself a time limit, whether that's 10 minutes or an hour. Just you, pencil, paper. You get all the possible ways you can interpret this down on paper. Then once you have the sketches, then you can bring your sketch into a vector-based program. So once you put it together, you can make it any size you want and the quality is retained. Always focus on it being in black and white. Can your logo be translated in black and white? Can your unique brand be translated with a logo that's devoid of color? And then once you have the form right, then you add the color also, but then make sure that you're testing the logo on different applications, in different situations, different sizes, making sure that everything is going to be represented the way you want it to be. And that's going to do it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like these types of videos and what other topics would you like to see me cover. I'm thinking about doing more direct and long form tutorials on this channel, just an idea that I have. But let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. And remember, as you go along in life, teach as you learn and inspire as you do. See you next time.